Welcome to the Sam and Sam Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. My name is Sam McGinnis, one of your co-hosts for the Sam and Sam Show. I'd like to welcome on my other co-host, Sam Teets. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Sam?
I'm doing pretty good because I got to chuckle. See, AB signed with the Buccaneers. I wanted to hear your take on this, but I thought I thought it was stupid.
Yeah, this is a little surprising because Bruce Arians was the head coach for the Buccaneers. Had worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers previously, and he had said earlier this year, not even like last year, earlier this year, that he had no intention of signing Antonio Brown. Now, apparently, because they've had injuries to Chris Godwin, to Mike Evans early in the year, and Tom Brady, Tom Brady's Tom Brady, and he's been pushing for them to sign and bring AB in, because he had AB for a little while with the New England Patriots. He was pushing Bruce Arians and the Buccaneers front office to sign Antonio Brown, get him on a one-year deal, very low risk, very low pay. So there's not a lot of risk involved here in bringing him on board. And in the end, Tom Brady won out despite Bruce Arians, like I said, before the season saying that he just had no intention of signing Antonio Brown. I believe there are character concerns there behind that. And Arians was thinking that way. Tom Brady clearly thinking a different way. He knows Antonio Brown's still a good player. He played with them just last year. He thinks he can help them win games. So they have signed Antonio Brown to a one-year deal.
Yeah, I'm still very skeptical on this one. The living cancer is who you just signed. And yeah, there's low risk, at least on the money end of it, but you could mess up some team chemistry this way.
Well, yeah, there's a big chance for things to fall apart here, but I will say this. When he was signed with New England last year, he was there for 1 week before they cut him or something like that. He was ready for one game, I believe. And that didn't necessarily throw off team chemistry. So my thing is, you could bring him in there. If things don't work out, you can just cut him because you're not going to be on the hook for any kind of cap or anything like that. Or if you are, it's very little. So to me, I think you could bring Antonio Brown in. Obviously, it's a little bit of a moral dilemma because of all the things he's done. Do you really want that on your team? Do you really want to send that message to your fans? But at the same point, if you're just looking at it from a money or even team chemistry perspective, you could probably avoid it. You could probably get around it. But again, I wouldn't want to sign Antonio Brown right now just because of everything he's done. I wouldn't want that player on my team.
Also, if I had $1 for the number of times Antonio Brown has said he's done with football.
Yeah, that's another thing. Antonio Brown's saying he's going to retire or something like that, or he wants to be traded, or he's going to retire. I think Tom Brady will keep him in line. I think Brady will have some pull on him. I think from what I've seen recently, Brown has a bit of a better understanding or a better mental state now than he did at the time where all this was going down. I'm not saying that's necessarily I want to sign in the NFL again. I'm not saying that per se because I know there's a lot of issues he's still dealing with.
Yeah.
At the point, he's going to be a good player. He's still going to be an effective player because Antonio Brown, the one thing I'll say about him, the one positive thing I will say that, even in Pittsburgh, even after he left Pittsburgh, his work ethic is like through the roof, on the field at the very least.
There's always that. But we also got a couple of big names, Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas, who are going to be out for Week 7.
Yeah, and this is a big deal for the Saints at this point because they're playing the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, I believe, are only one game behind the Saints, or they might have the same or similar records at this point. I'll pull it up real quick, but it's a big divisional game. I give the Panthers a lot of credit so far for what they've done early in the year. I think there's a real chance here that the Panthers come out there and potentially upset the New Orleans Saints because the Saints are 3-2, Panthers are 3-3. If the Panthers win, they jump ahead to be number 2 in the NFC South. And don't forget, Teddy Bridgewater was on the Saints just last year. He started 5 games, so he's got experience against his defense.
Yeah, and experience is always helpful. It's the number one teacher, even above just being in a classroom or being, in their case, in a film room learning. So that's always a benefit.
With their offense right now, it's getting to the point where you're kind of running on fumes here. Emmanuel Sanders was brought in to be a guy to complement Michael Thomas and give you 2 legitimate options. We saw this past week, Sanders had his best game of the season. However, Michael Thomas has not played since week 1 at this point. He was suspended for a conduct detrimental to the team this past weekend. Before that, he had missed a couple of weeks with an injury. He then aggravated something in practice earlier this week, and now he's out again.
Yeah. You're going to have to pardon my constant blinking. My eyes I want to gouge them out right now. They're messed up for whatever reason. But on top of all this other stuff we've got going on, we've got a lineman, if I'm not mistaken, on the move.
Yeah, and Yannick Ngakoue has been traded from the Minnesota Vikings to the Baltimore Ravens, which is, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I'm pretty mad because people seem to love enriching the Baltimore Ravens, and I don't know why. This is the same team that traded basically a bag of chips for Calais Campbell and sent Kenny Young in I think it was like a 5th-round pick to Los Angeles for Marcus Peters. They've gotten in the past year and a half, they've gotten 3 Pro Bowl players for like a 3rd-round pick, 3 5th-round picks, and Kenny Young, who's a backup linebacker. I don't know how or why teams are so convinced they just have to trade all their good pieces to Baltimore, but it seems to be what's going on right now. And for Yannick Ngakoue, it's interesting. He's matching up again with Calais Campbell, who he played with in Jacksonville for 3 or 4 years. Those were probably the best years of Calais Campbell's career. So now you're putting both those guys on team again. And for Minnesota, you're basically punting on the season because now you trade for Ngakoue before the season started, expecting to pair him and Danielle Hunter together, had the best pass rushers in football. Hunter is now undergoing season-ending surgery for a herniated disc, and you trade Yannick Ngakoue away for fewer pieces than what you got him for and what you tried to get to for him. So now, I mean, you're basically giving up on the year if you're Minnesota.
I think they kind of should have done that after you had that horrendous few games start. I mean, like, how many teams that start that horribly actually end up getting something done in the long term? They clearly were not prepared coming into this 2020 season.
I don't know if it was preparation so much as it just things went horribly wrong. I mean, Kirk Cousins has 2-3 interception games so far. And he's on pace to throw like 27 interceptions this year. I don't think you can prepare for that. Like, with someone Jameis Winston threw 30 picks last year, yeah, that's who Jameis Winston is. We kind of knew that already. But Kirk Cousins usually is a very efficient quarterback. He's not a top 10 guy, but he's usually a very efficient quarterback. And this year, he's been absolutely horrible. And I seem to recall that some individual had Kirk Cousins like around number 4 in their quarterback power rankings before the season started.
Dude, and now it's getting stretched to the point at which is not even true anymore. Who is that? I might add. And I might also add, we all make mistakes. I've mentioned this before, but I would like to also mention how someone else in our room thought Carson Wentz was a top 5 quarterback who is now also throwing multiple interception games.
You're also exaggerating now. I had him at number 7 and number 8, so therefore what you're saying is irrelevant.
Now we've thrown punches. Yeah, Carson Wentz is garbage, and so is Kirk Cousins. They've both fallen off a cliff at this point.
Yeah, but Carson Wentz's team might actually win their division, so there's a little bit of difference there.
Yes, but the reason of difference in wins is like pretty much none.
Hold on. Carson Wentz is playing with 3 backup linemen, 4 at times now because Lane Johnson's hurt. His best receiver, do you know who his best receiver is? Have you ever heard the name Travis Fulgham?
Here's what I have to say. People find excuses in 2 manners when they either want to elevate or de-elevate someone. When I think the greatest example I found with this was Tom Brady when he was on the New England Patriots his last year. Prior to his last year, everybody said Tom Brady never had anybody and that he just elevated everybody around him. And when everything started going wrong and he didn't have a fantastic season, everybody pointed the finger at now everybody else complaining that he didn't have anybody. Good quarterbacks do well, or at least decently, with what they've got.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Tom Brady team won 10 games and won the division that year.
They did. My point was he wasn't doing as well as prior years, and the excuse then became it's the rest of the team's fault. I can
understand that. It's still agree it was. I mean, Julian Edelman is dropping a lot of passes now, even with Cam Newton. So Julian Edelman is not playing at the usual level we can expect to. But for Carson Wentz, let me put it this way. Carson Wentz is without Deshaun Jackson. He's without Alshon Jeffrey. He's without Zach Ertz. He's without Dallas Goedert. He's without Miles Sanders. He's without the 5 best pass catchers on your team right now. The 3 guys actually were the leading pass catchers on your team last year. Ertz, Goddard, Sanders. They're all out for right now. Deshaun Jackson was supposed to be come back and be this good player for them. He's been hurt continuously. You've lost all-pro guard Brandon Brooks. Jason Peters was supposed to come back and be an anchor inside with guard. He's gone as well. Lane Johnson's week to week. He keeps getting bounced in and out of the lineup because he gets hurt. There's only so much you can hold against the dude when literally more than half of his offense is injured. His starting offense, or his projected starting offense, more than half of them are hurt.
Of course, with the Eagles, though, even if they had all those pieces, they'd probably be leading the division more than they are now. But how much better as a whole they would be doing? Yeah.
Instead of being, what are they? Instead of being
instead of being
4-1 or 2
garbage.
Yeah. It's that whole division's garbage. We might as well just get that whole division is.
See, the difference may have been, and we don't know because we haven't seen, and I'm not suggesting, but it could be that he would have done good but not great, or decently, but now because he's lost all that, it's awful. So the difference of being supported or not, because he's not an elite quarterback in that sense.
Yeah, it's all gone very weird in that division too. Because Dak Prescott, before he got hurt, obviously, was having a very good year. He was on pace to throw for over 6,000 yards, and they were going to win 2 or 3 games the entire season because that's Mike McCarthy's offense. He wants to throw the ball for 6,000 yards. And you'll never win with that kind of offense because of how he implements it in the game plan, how bad the defense was, how much he overlooked the defense in the offseason. So Dak Prescott was going to have basically going to do the opposite of Carson Wentz. I mean, Carson Wentz was going to have a bad year, but they were probably going to win the division. Dak Prescott was going to have a very good year, and they were not going to make the playoffs. So it's two very odd situations in that. Now you put Andy Dalton in the middle of it, and that just makes everything else go crazy.
Yeah, it's bad when if the Giants had won, which they almost did, by the way, if they had won yesterday's game, they would actually be in the playoff hunt.
They're still in the playoff hunt. They're what, like they're 2 games, 2.5 games out of first place?
You know it's bad when you're 1-7 and there's a chance you could make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Giants right now are 1-5. They're going to be 1-6 now. I'm pretty sure that's the wrong number, but it's crazy right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are winning this division with two wins and a tie. We're almost halfway through the year.
This is embarrassing. That whole division needs to do a rebuild as a whole.
They do. I mean, they do have 3 new head coaches this year, so that kind of tells you where the teams are at. But really, I mean, Washington needs a new quarterback. The Giants need to get rid of Daniel Jones. I know he's only in his 2nd year, but he's been bad. You need to get a new quarterback. You need to fix the offensive line first, though. And then Dak Prescott, goes down. Andy Dalton goes in. He has a terrible first game out. And Carson Wentz, I have no idea why he's imploded. To me, when I watch him play, it's a little bit of him trying to play hero ball, like he's trying to force the envelope at this point, which is kind of understandable because everything else all your key supporters are literally crumbling around you. They were trying to trade Zach Ertz, who has been your best receiver in the entire career. They were trying to trade him away before he got hurt. And so it's just with Carson Wentz, I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's just he's trying to do too much. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into why Wentz is playing the way he is right now.
Well, honestly, if I was Carson Wentz, I would almost ask for a trade.
I mean, you could do that, but you got to realize where you're going to get traded to, right? You're going to get traded to.
That's the thing, though. It's about timing. So for him, that might be a future thought is, do I really want to stay here? But can you do anything about it right now?
I mean, probably not. If I was Carson Wentz, the best landing spots for me to be, the only spots I could see being traded to right now this year, because there's a lot of young guys going in places right now. I mean, I could see Washington, but they would never do that because it's in the division, so that would not happen. Looking around, I would say Chicago, but they've paid so much money to Trubisky and Foles at this point, you can't possibly do that financially.
Well,
where else? I mean, all the other places in the NFC are basically off limits. You have to go over to the AFC. And is it the Jets? Is it the Patriots? Are they going to just boot Sam Darnold and Cam Newton to the back so they can put Carson Wentz in? I don't know that happens. Denver might make sense if you were actually going to do that. The Broncos probably would be the best shot because Drew Lock's only a 2nd-round pick. So I think Denver might be the logical landing spot. If that were to happen, it won't. But if it was, Denver would probably be the place.
Well, yeah, and as you said, we're not speaking in reality at the moment. It would just be it might be smart if you're Carson Wentz at this point.
Especially the offensive line, which was one of the best in the NFL 3 years ago, it's been so hurt and banged up at this point that if you feel like you are physically suffering behind that line, it's not out of your power to ask for a trade, or at least to ask for a better offensive line first and then ask for a trade later.
Right. And yeah, again, not necessarily at this moment, but something to be thinking about for him in the future if this continues.
Yeah, just because the supporting, it's making you look bad, but I'm more worried about the physical health, the hits you're taking that you don't have to take. That's the point. And it's also like gotta be mentally tiring to go out there and know that your best guys are not going to be healthy. You know that you don't even know who your stars are going to be week to week because of injuries. So at some point, it's got to build up on Carson Wentz.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we move on to the literal one piece of NHL news that we have because nothing has happened. The current start date that I've heard of is January 1st. So they indeed moved the season back, which I think makes a whole lot of sense considering, you finished this last season. You can't start immediately after when you normally do in October. You just can't. It would be impossible for the players who just got done with a Stanley Cup to then immediately go into an 82-game regular season. That's an unrealistic expectation. And
to tie into that, the NBA, now the NBA news for the day is the same thing. The NBA is thinking about starting on Christmas, like a Christmas start date for them right now. So it's at that point where they're setting this up. Originally, they were saying, it might be later than that because we don't know we're going to be able to put everything in place before then. But money, I think, is winning out. They're looking at starting up on Christmas. Again, it's still a very quick turnaround, though. It's still a very quick turnaround from think about early October that'd be early October when the finals finished up. Early October to starting in late December. That's pretty quick for a turnaround. And like you said, for these guys, it's make that quick change up there and to get started already. You have to move the season back at least a little bit, especially when it's 82 games. But let me ask you this. You moved the season back. Do you think anything else is going to change for the NHL this year?
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. Can you say that again?
Do you think there's going to be any other changes to like the NHL schedule this year?
Obviously, there should be less games. If you're trying to do playoffs when you normally do them in March, it's going to be nearly, if not impossible, to put 82 regular season games in January, February, and March, and then part of April. Normally, you have October, November, December, so you just lost 3 months.
Do you think they go – I mean, they're probably going to push the finals back, I would think. And they're going to maybe get extra month and a half in there. Maybe take – of those 3 months that they lost, maybe take a month and a half of that and plug it into this season and try maybe move around the schedule a little bit for the next couple of years to get it back to normal?
I don't know. As a fan, that would kind of piss me off. I'd just be kind of like mess it up once and then get it done. That would just be annoying for me to them try and fix that for several years. For me, you're cutting the season almost in half. Just have a 41-game regular season. We get something a little new just for a year. It would kind of maybe stink for some not to have that full 82 games, but at the same time, you could have some crazy stuff happen, like random teams you wouldn't normally see in the playoffs because they got hot at the right time. So it'd be interesting to see.
The biggest issue I might have with that, though, is you get people like Mike Goodpasser who come out and say that it's not a legitimate championship then because you only played half a year and it alters. So that's the issue, I think, would be that, one, you're altering maybe just how the league plays, that you're altering the style of the game that you've been playing. And also, financially, playing half a year versus playing a full year after you just had because you already had one pandemic short year. You technically already had an abbreviated season. Adding another one on top of it would be very difficult financially, I would assume.
I'm not really sure there's a whole lot they can do about it, though.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. We don't really know. We're not behind closed doors, obviously, so we don't know what's going on. But I would assume that, you're walking a thin line, I would think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, tough positions for all sports leagues at the moment. But for the NHL, I'm just going to be happy when it comes back on January 1st, assuming that actually happens on January 1st, depending on how they move it, because news is interesting nowadays. Also, for those of you who look at news on Facebook for your sports, a lot of that is false, by the way. That always pisses me off when I'm scrolling through and I see something that's completely, and I'm just like, are you kidding? Why would you do? It's not. And then the excuse
the fake accounts.
The excuse then comes sometimes is, well, it's a joke. I'm like, you know what? Jokes are supposed to be funny. If I didn't laugh, you're not doing your job.
Yeah, it's like the fake accounts was like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have agreed to trade Tom Brady to I'm like, there's fake accounts all on Instagram all the time. I see the same stuff. It's like
you're like, why?
No, he didn't.
Why are you here? This isn't funny. It's just annoying.
Why are you like this?
what makes this funny? But yeah, just for the little side note. But as we move on, I think this is only the second time we've talked about baseball, but I was actually watching Game 2 of the World Series the other day, and we've got it all tied up.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 games as well. The third game's on right now. They were on, I want to say the 4th or 5th inning, but when we turned it off to do the podcast, so they're going through right now. The Dodgers were leading 5-0 at the time. I'll pull the game up right now to check the score. LA had basically one really good inning in the first game that built a huge lead for them. They basically held on to that the rest of the night. And then, it was Clayton Kershaw also had a very phenomenal game. Then yesterday, the pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays was so much better than what the Dodgers had. They didn't have to score a ton of runs, but they did a fairly good job with the bats, and then the bullpen kind of took them home. So now we're at 1-1, and the score right now in Game 3 is still 5-0 at the bottom of the 5th.
Yeah, their starting pitcher had quite a number of strikeouts just the other day. I was watching with my buddy, and that was impressive.
Yes, it was. But the pitchers, it always amazes me because you see them pitch the ball, and I always when I was a kid, I was just always assumed oh, of course you could hit that. But then you think about how fast that ball is going in there and how quickly, as a batter, you have to make the decision to swing or not. It's no wonder you swing and hit air so often. So no wonder it's so difficult. It's just incredible what some of these guys are able to do.
Well, and on top of it, it's not just that it's going fast; it's that it's coming on different angles and curves. So and it's not even on the same plane as your eyes most of the time.
Well, you watch the replay where they show. As a batter, sometimes you're watching the fingers. They're watching the release of the pitcher to see because sometimes they have different release points. Where the fastball will come through here, but then they'll have something out here. But for guys like Kershaw or Snelly or Day, their release points are so similar to each other that you can't tell what they're going to throw at you. And you have that split second to try to guess what they're going to throw. And then if you're expecting something that's going to come right down the middle and it curves outside, or if you're expecting something that's you see a release and the ball starts up here, but then by the time it gets to the home plate, it comes down to here. That's almost impossible to hit on those guys.
Well, yeah, and for upcoming pitchers, that would be a good skill to learn, would be very tight releases depending on what pitch you're throwing so that they can't tell what's coming at them. So good on those players for being able to learn that. I'm not sure I would ever be able to get my arm under that kind of control.
I honestly have no idea how you throw a baseball that fast. I couldn't do that. Physically, I couldn't do it. But
yeah, very, very difficult. Very difficult. But now we also move on to college football. And for those of you who didn't know, I like Michigan State. And since we've got Big Ten back, I think Ohio State is playing today?
I don't know. I don't think it's today. They're playing Nebraska. Oh, maybe it is tonight. Let me look. But
I think it's tonight.
They're opening against Nebraska, and that's the start of the Big Ten coming back. Obviously, you've been going for we're in week 8 of the season now for college football. You're kind of behind a little bit. And the game is tomorrow at noon, by the way.
Okay, my bad. I thought it was today. I saw something about it, but yeah, normally if you just finished out what would be normal number of games, they should only have 4 left, but instead they're 8?
Yeah, 8 games. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how you fit that in. You got teams like Clemson or other teams in the nation that already played 6 or 5 games, so you're kind of starting from behind. It's even worse for the Pac-12. They're not starting until November, so I don't know how you're gonna fit in a full season. How you're gonna fit in a regular season schedule of games and be qualified for the college football playoffs. I have no idea how it's going to happen.
Should they even be allowed to?
Yeah, see, this is the point I was making earlier in the month. Or even earlier in September. I was like, look, should you be qualified for this? Should you be given the benefit of the doubt? Because you're not playing at the same schedule as the rest of the nation right now. It's just so out of hand. I wouldn't put them up there, but the EP poll for this week has them has Ohio State at number 5, and has Penn State at number 8, and they haven't even played a game yet. And it's just I don't know. I don't like those rankings, but at the same point, there's really only 2 elite teams in the country right now, in Clemson and Alabama. Ohio State certainly has a chance to be the 3rd, and I'll say there's only 3 really good teams in the country. Georgia's the 3rd one. Georgia just got beat by Alabama. So to me, there's only 3 good teams in the nation right now. Maybe Ohio State becomes one. Maybe Penn State or Minnesota or Wisconsin's another. But I'm hoping the Big Ten can inject a little more life and a little more variety into this season.
Yeah, because you have been missing multiple conferences to this point, so you're getting one of them back. which is always going to help the number of games. And then for all those people who like watching the Big Ten games finally get to.
Yeah, it's big to have him back, especially because, like I said, Ohio State is a relevant Big Ten school. Unlike,
Hey, he said it's a big. I had to. He said it was a big thing, so I had to throw that out there since we're talking about the Big Ten. Ooh.
Yeah, but it's just interesting. I don't know how to move on from that. But really, Alabama beat Georgia this past week, and I picked Alabama to win this game. I had a co-host on a different podcast who picked Georgia. I don't know why they did that, but Alabama goes out there, asserts dominance over Georgia yet again. But the Bulldogs only dropped from, I believe they were number 3 last week to now they're number 4. So 3-1, they're at number 4. And that's understandable to me because I think they are one of the top 4 teams in the country right now. It's not a very, it's not a very stacked top 10 right now. There's a lot of teams that I would consider be roadkill for Clemson on any usual day. Like Oklahoma State or an A&M or a Cincinnati, they would get destroyed by Clemson. So to me, the top 10 lead people right now, it's not that strong.
Yeah. Do you think most of that is a result of COVID or just a result of a different kind of a year?
I don't know, honestly. That's a good question. I really don't know why it's so weak this year. The competition pool is not nearly, I feel like, as strong as in years past. After Clemson killed Miami, I feel like that's it for them. They're going to keep rolling. Because even North Carolina lost this past weekend. But they were like number 6 in the nation, number 7 very early. They were up there. And they were, you could tell from the previous weeks, they were not that tired. They were not a top 10 team. And yet they were still that high up this past weekend, and then they lost. So to me, it's very interesting how the rankings come out. I think personally, the rankings are just been incorrect to some degree. It's also you're missing 2 Power 5 conferences, which explains a little bit of it. But I also think the rankings are so wrong, and it kind of shifts your perspective to make it look really weak.
Right, yeah. And again, like you said, you're missing a lot of teams still, so that can fill in maybe some of those holes that are being filled with teams that really aren't top 10 material.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten could produce 3 top 10 teams, honestly. The only issue would be that they play such an in-conference schedule, so they're going to be beating up on each other.
Yeah. And Michigan State will be garbage. I just want to throw that out there. Despite the fact that I am wearing this apparel, they are going to suck. They just – there was a certain point, I don't remember if it was 2016 or 17, somewhere in there, they just kind of fell off a cliff and they haven't really gotten back on board yet.
Yeah, at some point, they just stopped being relevant. It was sudden, too. It was like they just dropped off the face of the air pretty much.
Yeah. I don't know if that was connected to all the stuff they had with their school and the harassment stuff. I don't know if that happened at the same time. But that would be.
I think that was the same time. I don't know if necessarily was correlated. I don't know if one thing led to another. I think it was just that they happened about the same time.
School falls apart.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for our college football news. Do you want to go on to Thinking You're Dreaming now?
Absolutely. You wrote yours up first, so we'll go with yours.
All right. We'll see 2 new teams reach the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals. And when I mean 2 new teams, we're not going to see the teams that were in there this year repeat and get back to the game.
Yeah, I know we talked about the Lightning and how they could repeat, but this is not unrealistic. The last team that ended up in back-to-back years was in 2016, and then 2017 you had the Penguins, and they won back-to-back years. But yeah, it's not at all unrealistic to have. This isn't the NBA, okay? It's not like there are only 4 teams that ever have a shot at anything. LeBron versus whoever else is coming out the other side. Yeah, it's basically what it is. But yeah, we could totally see new teams. We could see the Avalanche. The Vegas Golden Knights are another good contender on the West. I mean, you've always got the Capitals, though I don't trust them, like we've talked.
We've been over that, yeah.
The Metropolitan is loaded. You've still got the Bruins. The Bruins are still going to be good. There are plenty of teams that could end up and find their way into the Stanley Cup Finals, and even ones you don't necessarily expect. Dallas Stars, I wasn't expecting them to because of more the way Pavelski and Corey Perry played before the point in the playoffs where they started to get hot. Because I remember I actually wrote an article about this after the Stars acquired Corey Perry and Pavelski in the offseason. I made note that this is a Stanley Cup contender. Then they didn't do so well, so I became unsure. They turned it on in the playoffs. So you can see a lot of crazy stuff with the NHL.
All right, my second question, or my second, I guess, idea I'm going to put forward here is, this is the NFL season with the most parity in the past 5 years, so the most quality teams.
Okay, so you asked two different questions. Which one are you? You asked
the most parity, yeah.
So we had a shift in the NFL just a couple years ago where we had a lot of I don't remember which year it was, but it was just a few years back. We had a whole lot of things shift around, and then this year you get the Vikings crashing and burning, which, okay, you may not have expected them to be like the greatest thing ever, but you would have expected them to at least have been competent, right? And we haven't seen that. We saw the Steelers go from okay to amazing. We've seen the Titans, who we thought was going to be a one-year thing, to, oh, no, we're a dominant team now. And Derrick Henry putting up over 200 yards in a game. Of course, that should be expected. That is one thing that should be expected in that madness. But, yeah, there is potential for this, but there has been years recently where we've seen parity that I didn't see coming, and then, of course, we've had some this year as well. So there's a potential, but I'm not really sure I've paid enough attention to specific parity to answer that fully.
All right, so you have some questions for me then?
Yeah, and we're going to start with this one. Your Steelers are a contender.
They absolutely are. This is thinking, McGinnis. You're starting to think here. I can see you're coming around.
I need to make you happy this time, because if I'm not mistaken, you didn't like my questions last time.
No, I think you said something about, I forget what it was. I didn't like it. I do remember hitting my desk, so I don't know what it was, but I do remember hitting my desk. But
totally.
No, the Steelers are absolutely contenders. So sitting at 5-0. Ben Roethlisberger is protecting the football, which is something that we haven't seen a lot of recently. So I'm glad to see that. The running game is much better than what it was last year. The offensive line has been beat up, but for some reason it's working. Ben hasn't gained sacked a lot. The running game's coming back. Chase Claypool is playing phenomenal right now. And the defense is working its way back into form that it was last year. So the defense is playing an elite level again. The Steelers are a contender. They potentially will even win the AFC North. My biggest concern right now is that they will lose to Tennessee this weekend and then go on a losing streak. I did pick Pittsburgh to win that game, though. I have faith in them. I think they can shut down Derrick Henry. I think they'll put all the pressure on Ryan Tannehill. I think they'll be able to win that game. It's going to be close, though. I think we'll really learn a lot about the Steelers this weekend.
Yeah, and of course, even though they might put the pressure on Tannehill, Tannehill has also turned into quite the quarterback.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, let's be honest. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL right now, stat-wise, in terms of how high he's playing behind Russell Wilson. If you had to pick an MVP for the season outside of Russell Wilson, it would either be Ryan Tannehill or Derrick Henry for me at this point. So you've got a situation right now where you have probably the best quarterback running back duo on the same team. They're undefeated. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out for Tennessee.
Yeah, and I personally would not mind seeing them go all the way, but we'll see how that ends up.
I would, because it would mean Pittsburgh didn't.
Yeah, because see, that's the caveat for you, is if it's not Pittsburgh, it's not Pittsburgh. But I've got one other question. I'm going to modify it a little bit before I say it. The NBA has 3 teams that can make the finals and only 2 that can win.
Do you have specific teams in mind before I answer that?
I do not. I just want to hear your take on that sentence as a whole, because even if our teams might just that sentence as a whole.
All right. You are dreaming. It's more than 3 teams. Because if I start in the Western Conference, you'll have the Lakers, that's a pretty obvious one. We all understand that. You have the Clippers, who, by the way, a lot of people, actually more people, picked to win the finals this year than the Lakers, at least in the media. So you got 2 teams right there. And you know what? I will cut you off. I think the Nuggets are a legit team that will have most of their pieces come back. I think you could stretch it to 3. Really, I would just hold it between 2 LA teams, though, if I'm being specific. So you got 2 teams in the West. You go over to the East. And this is where it kind of breaks apart. because you got the Bucks. You got the Bucks with Giannis. That's an MVP. That's a 2-time MVP right there. I look at that. He's got to be starving for a championship at this point after what's happened the past 2 years. So I'd put him there. I would give it to the Raptors. I know they're actually know what? No, I'm going to knock the Raptors off. So they're losing a lot of guys at free agency this year. So we're still at 3 teams. The Heat, who just went there, you're at 4 already. And the 5th one I'll say is the Boston Celtics because they have Jason Tatum, they have Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker. They have a really good team right now. They've got a good coach in Brad Stevens. I think that's 5 teams. So I'm being very, very strict in my criteria for the top finals candidate. 5 teams. I could extend it and put Toronto and Denver in there as well and make it 7. But I'll say there's at least 5, so you're dreaming here, McGinnis.
Okay. At least that's more than it was with the Golden State Cavaliers thing for literally.
Well, at that point, it was just 1-1. I mean, we knew that was going to happen. It really. But by year 3 and year 4, I mean, did we have any doubt of what was going to happen there?
Oh my gosh! So I wasn't an NBA fan at the time until maybe late during that stretch. How was it for you to have to go through that entire stretch as an NBA fan?
You know, it was actually kind of fine because I liked LeBron James, so I was okay with it.
Okay.
Also, I was a Heat fan, so I'm a Heat fan. So I just been to 4 consecutive finals of 1-2. I wish we had gotten 3. I wish LeBron stayed in Miami. I think we could have honestly won another title. I think the Heat could have beaten the Warriors that first year. So I was upset he left, but at the same point, you know, I was kind of just enjoying the ride a little bit. And the playoff games were still entertaining. Like the teams that got there, yeah, you kind of knew it was going to be those teams. So if you're a person who says, oh, the outcome or the way they get there doesn't matter, you just care about the outcome, you would have hated it. But if you actually watched each individual game and followed all the storylines and looked at all the great plays that happened on the way there, you could still enjoy it regardless.
No, that's a good note. I'm sure some people don't feel quite the same way, but it's at least good that somebody enjoyed it.
Yeah. That person may or may not be watching on his Facebook page, or may when he comes back to watch this video, if he watches it. But
he absolutely will. I have a bad feeling that he watches probably all of these.
And see, I have a feeling he probably doesn't watch any of them. You're giving him a little too much credit. I know he watched one of them. I know he watched the first and maybe the third one, but
yeah, you never know. He's a ghost on the internet.
He'll jump to this specific clip, won't watch anything else in the video. He'll jump to the final 5 minutes and listen to this exact part right now, and not have to hear about it on Monday. But you know, it is what it is.
This is why you don't show up on Monday. I actually get to do stuff with him tomorrow, though. Got a playoff game for our football team.
Hey, there you go, McGinnis. Go get the playoff win, man.
Yeah. They're a lot bigger than us, but we're a lot faster than they are. So we'll see how that goes. But
hey, people pull it off. Mike's a good coach. Mike knows what he's doing.
He does. All right. You want to wrap us up, though?
Yeah, we want to remind you to check out the Grueling Truth Facebook page. Also check out the website. We've got articles there, including my specifically NFL power rankings, NFL quarterback rankings, and an article about the Ngakoue trade that went down the other day. So check out our website, the Facebook page. We're streaming all the time to YouTube, Twitch, Periscope. So make sure you check out those outlets as well. We are sponsored by Manscaped. Sorry, I was thinking I had to pause for it. We're sponsored by Manscaped. Use the promo code TGT20. Get 20% off on your first purchase. We are also sponsored by RCAND.com, which is Replenishing Care Technologies. Make sure you check them out. And their PEMF machine, which can help you recover and get your body back in shape faster. We would also like to give a quick moment to tell you this. YouTube has demonetized us for some reason. Mike hasn't told me yet. Mike has not told me why. I'm sure he got a message. What is that?
Because he mentioned on a post he literally doesn't even know. He wasn't.
You have to get a message when you get demonetized. Because I had a video that I got copyright claimed a while ago, and you get emails for this stuff. You should have a message telling you exactly why you've been demonetized. But
I would hope so.
Yeah. And then there's been an error with the Facebook page. I already sent something out to Facebook because there's been bugs, so this is not going up live on the Facebook page. It's going up on Mike's personal page right now. But make sure you check out the official Grueling Truth Facebook page. It'll be up and running probably sometime next week. Again, just because it's a bug. Mike's going about thinking that Facebook has canceled him. It's not that. It's just a bug. I looked it up. It's happened to a bunch of our pages as well. We're going to get that fixed. We're going to get this back up and running on there as soon as possible. But again, make sure you check out our sponsors. And if you want to, check out Rockfin. It's a service where you can subscribe for about $9 a month. You get to look at premium content that isn't censored. You don't have to go through it like YouTube has or on Facebook. So again, check us out on Rockfin. There's plenty of other creators there as well. We'd appreciate anything you can do for us. But for now, after that long outro and all those sponsorships, we'd like to say thank you for